And we're joined live by City Councilwoman Dimple Ajmera. Dimple, thank you so much for joining us on this Friday afternoon.
Of course. Thank you, Julie, for having me.
I know that there's a lot going on right now. We are still waiting for City Council's budget retreat. We're also waiting to vote on the legislative priorities for 2026. I'd like to start there and talk about some of the things that y'all would like to see from the legislature this year. I know one of the biggest priorities is, of course, funding for safety and mental health support.
Absolutely, Julie. Our number one priority is public safety. We had a hearing earlier this week in Raleigh where our city leaders showed the progress that we are making on public safety. We have seen 21% reduction last year on violent crime. And we also highlighted where we need stronger partnership from Raleigh to keep that momentum going. Julie, you heard from the Chief Patterson. I appreciated her leadership, and that opportunity at the hearing gave us insight into the progress that Charlotte is making, but then also the chief discussed challenges that we are having. So public safety is too important for partisan politics. It requires partnerships at all levels of government. So we have our state legislative agenda, Julie. State legislative agenda and federal legislative agenda was something that was unanimously adopted by the Budget Governance and Intergovernmental Relations Committee. It will be in front of the council 2 weeks from today for an adoption. So I can walk you through some of the items that we have on public safety.
Yeah, that would be great. I know specifically I was at that hearing in Raleigh, and one of the things we heard a lot from Chief Patterson was the need for state support for more retention for law enforcement agents, which means higher pay, and also stronger mental health support. I know that that's a multifaceted issue as well.
Absolutely. We are asking Raleigh to step up and provide us the support that we need. We are asking for more funding for mental health support. We are also asking for more support to recruit CMPD officers. As you know, that municipalities across the nation are struggling with recruiting officers, and we need Raleigh's support to help us with that. And we are also asking for additional funding for juvenile detention facility to be reestablished here in Charlotte so that we can hold our repeat offenders accountable while being close to home where they have the support system that is necessary to turn their lives around.
I think what's so interesting about, this hearing and where we go from here is that, of course, this conversation really started with the murder of Irina Zarutska and talking about, it kind of highlighted some gaps in the system, whether that be at the city or state or even federal level. And so I do think it's interesting, too, the element of the court system needing more support, specifically in Mecklenburg County.
Absolutely, you nailed it. In order for public safety to work well, all levels of government have to work together, which means our courts need to be funded at 100%. Our DA's office need to be funded at 100%. We are not operating anywhere near at our 100% funding level. The district attorney's office holds people accountable. So we need to ensure that the district attorney's office does have the funding that it needs to hire prosecutors. We need to make sure that people that have been waiting, these are victims and their families that have been waiting for a long time because our court system has a huge backlog, because they are not well funded. So our state legislative agenda does ask specifically to fund our DA's office as well as our court system so that officers are not having to deal with revolving door. They are having to arrest same individuals 20, 30 times. And that is unacceptable for the city our size.
Now, I do know that even there watching it, it seems like a lot of the representatives on that committee were very receptive to a lot of these asks. That being said, there is no state budget at this point. Were you surprised at how receptive they were? And on top of that, how quickly do you guys think this needs to go through?
Well, this should have been done yesterday, but sooner the better, Julie. It- the hearing went very well. I was very pleased to see that there was a level of support, and at least they were receptive to these ideas. And this was not just through political lines. I mean, I saw the support from both Democrats and Republicans, which is great. And because the committee, I believe, realizes that police cannot win the race alone. We need our courts, we need our prosecutors, they have to be fully staffed so cases move forward and victims get closure that they need. Our justice system is like a relay race. Every part of the system has to work in order to keep our community safe.
Now, I know there's also the element of you guys having your budget retreat. This got delayed multiple times for the crazy snowstorms that we've had. But I don't know if we have an update on when that's going to be, and if you have any updated thoughts on what you would like to see that conversation look like.
Absolutely. So, Julie, we are looking at early March for our retreat. We have had to reschedule it multiple times because of the weather. And at our retreat, we will get an update on our budget. I can tell you that public safety pay, specifically the pay for our officers, need to be one of the priorities because we need to make sure that we can be a number one place for our officers when it comes to competitive pay. We are falling behind, and we heard that from Chief Patterson at the hearing in Raleigh earlier this week. So we will be looking at that as we are looking at investing more in our talent, recruiting and retaining our talent. We also have very tough decisions to make ahead of us. Sales tax increase that was approved by the residents of Mecklenburg last November will be going in effect this July. So we need to be very thoughtful about how we balance our budget without putting additional burden on our residents, especially our property taxpayers, because we want to make sure we are not harming the very people we are trying to protect. So how do we balance the budget where we are retaining and recruiting the best talent, but at the same time, we are being very mindful about not increasing the burden on our residents in terms of the property tax. So some tough decisions ahead of us. We are also looking at infrastructure, mobility, while also ensuring how do we keep our residents safe, not just in terms of CMPD and fire department, but also how can we make sure we deliver on safe infrastructure. So we have one of the initiatives called Vision Zero, which is to eliminate traffic fatalities and traffic accidents. Our Vision Zero report had come out. We certainly need to do better to keep our residents safe. We have high injury networks where that makes up majority of where traffic fatalities and accidents are occurring. We need to make sure that we address those high injury networks, where we invest in solving those high injury networks so we can save more lives. So I hope that we can address that as well as part of the retreat. And I look forward to the budget update on how we are looking in terms of our projections. And also, we will be looking at affordable housing as our city is growing at such a fast pace. We need to ensure that people can afford to stay in our city. People who are working in our city should be able to afford to live in our city. So affordable housing is also one of our priorities alongside public safety and infrastructure. We will also be looking at workforce development and small businesses development. Because they are what makes Charlotte so special. We need to ensure that as we are looking at $30 billion investments over next 30 years in our mobility projects, that our small businesses are ready to bid on some of these opportunities, that our workforce is ready for the opportunities that will be coming down the pipe. So we'll be looking all of that and more at our retreat in early March.
A lot of really important topics. Just one more question out of curiosity. You mentioned Vision Zero. Of course, everyone would love to see the roadways be even safer. I'm curious if, going back to our original topic about the legislative agenda, if there's any way City Council wants the state to support in that safety effort.
Absolutely. So all of the items that I mentioned, reestablishing juvenile detention facility here in Charlotte is part of our state legislative agenda, supporting the retention and recruitment of our officers. So funding from the state for that is also very crucial. We are also asking the state to fully fund our district attorney's office at 100%, as well as our court system at 100%. We are making those asks as our state legislative agenda. We will be discussing that at the retreat as well. We have a very tight time frame for our state legislative agenda because the short session in Raleigh begins in April. So we have less than 2 months at this point to adopt the legislative agenda that I touched on. And we will be going to DC in March to lobby our delegation and discuss our legislative agenda.
Dimple, thank you so much, as always, for joining us. We really appreciate you walking us through some very complicated issues. So thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Honor. It's my honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.